I guess if I'm getting a standing ovation, I can just be done right now, right? We're good. I love it. That's right. That's right. A leader is someone who holds her or himself accountable for finding the potential in people and process. Brene Brown. Today's conversation is entitled Six Sigma Leadership, X Factors to Success. So we're going to start with my story. And I started my practice back in 1994. I'm kind of an old guy. But this story begins back in 2003, when the price of gas was literally $1.59. You guys remember that? Some of you weren't even born in 2003, but I do remember. So here was the situation back then. I had already tripled the size of my first location. I had added 2 more startup practices, and we had just acquired our 4th office for cash, and I actually made money on the deal because we bought the accounts receivable, and the accounts receivable actually funded the overall cash purchase. So at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm looking pretty good right now. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. But in reality, we were seeing lots of patients, but over time, we were definitely having challenges getting paid. So my story actually started to look like this.
I declare bankruptcy!
For real. So it was more of, instead of the shizzle, it was more of, I'm an idiot. And I knew at that time I had to become a lot smarter. Because running one practice is so much different than scaling and operating 2, 3, 4, 5, and more. So ultimately, I knew the buck stopped with me, and I need to do something. And I took action. And I enrolled in Wharton's School of Business, University of Pennsylvania, through their small business development program. And I'm going to tell you that that decision that I made changed my life. But more on that later. I'll get back to the bankruptcy story later. So the title of the presentation is Six Sigma Leadership. So what is Six Sigma? So I'm going to use an everyday example. How many people in this room, with a show of hands, like steak? Raise your hands. All right. Who here in the room likes their steak medium rare? Raise your hand. All right. So Brian, you go to your favorite steakhouse, which is? Twig. All right, Twig right here. You go to Twig. You order your steak medium rare, and all of a sudden, it comes out a wee bit burnt. What do? You'll send that back, right? So you send it back. They give you the steak that you want. And then you come back to Utah. You go back to Twig because it's your place. And you order your steak medium rare, and it comes out mooing. What do? You're going to send it back, right? So you send it back, and you come out to Utah for the 3rd time. You go to your favorite steak place, Twig. You order ribeye medium rare, and they bring you sushi. I mean, they might as well have brought you a plate of poop because you're not going back there, right? So what's happening here? What went wrong? So why were these orders incorrect? Why? I'm asking the group, why? Disorganization, communication breakdown. Let's dig deeper. Specifically, what went wrong? Why did the steak come out too well done? Say it again. Well, he didn't do his job, but there's more to that, right? What specifically went wrong? What factor? They didn't follow directions. What are the factors in cooking time, right? Cooking time. What else? Temperature. Very good. Quality control, yes, but what part of quality control, right? That's what we're really trying to dig into. So another thing, a variable that could go wrong, an X factor that could go wrong, is thickness of the steak, right? Because you can have the same time in cooking. You can have the same temperature in cooking, but if the steak is too thin, it comes out burnt. And if it's too thick, it comes out raw. Identifying key variables that deliver a result is what it's all about. So what is Six Sigma? Six Sigma is a quality assurance methodology designed to control the 3 to 5 key processes in any process, the key steps in any process, in order to guarantee the desired result. So when you think about this, you have administrative processes in your practice, you have financial policies in your practice, you have clinical policies in your practice, you have marketing policies in your practice, and when something doesn't go right, what are the 3 to 5 key variables that you must control for in order to deliver the desired result? Y is a function of the many X's. Y is the desired outcome. That's what we're looking for in any given process. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that outcome is really determined by a wide variety of variables, but there's typically 3 to 5 that matter the most. So why is it labeled Six Sigma? Well, we'll get to that later as well. So when it comes to leaders, what are the key inputs? What are the key variables? What are the key X factors that we must control for in order to be the most effective leaders? When we think about leadership, there's so many things that we can talk about. I mean, we could be talking about leadership for days on end, the key elements of leadership. But for me, today I'm going to be talking about 3 things: mindset, people, and process. So let's start with mindset. Our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or disposition. Because we can accommodate and adapt. Because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. So Fortune comes out with their top 5 leaders every single year. So if you think about the world's greatest living leaders, who would you say is a great leader? Just shout them out. Who would you say? Elon Musk. Who else? Jeff Bezos. Who else? They've made the list also. Who else? Not in 2019. Who else? Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg. Who else? Sorry? Bill Gates. Great choices. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Pony Ma of Tencent. Robert Mueller, Department of Justice. Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand. And lastly, somebody said it, Bill and Melinda Gates, because of their foundation. Now, when it comes to great leaders, what do they have in common? Shout it out. What do they have in common? What do great leaders have in common? Sorry, say it again. A system, absolutely. What else? Vision, what else? Communication skills, great. What else? Money? Yeah, money helps. Money doesn't hurt. A great team, right? A players like Corey was talking about earlier. Corey actually mentioned this yesterday, just for a brief second. So what these great leaders have in common is self-awareness. The ability to be self-aware is a critical element, according to the evidence, a critical element in being a highly effective leader. So your first mindset X factor, your first key driver, your first key variable is develop greater self-awareness by using validated tools and peer feedback. So what are some common tools that we know of today? Myers-Briggs, yes, who's taken it? Raise your hands. Really great way to assess your personality type. I happen to be an INFJ. It's used a lot in the hiring process for companies. Same thing with DISC, also used with Fortune 100, 500 companies. 5 Dynamics happens to be one of my favorites. It lets you know where you have the most energy in performing your activities. It was really cool, like when I did mine, and all you're doing is actually, a screen pops up, it's 2 words, you pick the word that most describes you, and it takes about 5 or 10 minutes, and then after you're done, it gives you a report, and mine was like spot on. It said, the first sentence was, "You are an entrepreneur." And I just read the rest of it, and it just pegged me. I loved it. And it tells me where I actually have the greatest ability to be in flow when I do certain things. And then when it comes to peer feedback, I love the Johari window. So this is about knowing who you are, yourself, but also how others know you too. So when you know something about yourself and others know it about you as well, that's your open self. When you know something about yourself but others don't know about it, that's your hidden self. When others don't know and you don't know, that is your unknown self. Not a lot that can be done there, but where the greatest opportunity lies, especially as it relates to feedback, is right here, where it's unknown to you, but others clearly know this about you. And so with my teams, the ability to ask questions like, what are my 3 greatest strengths and what are my 3 greatest areas of opportunity? Notice I don't call them weaknesses. What are the 3 greatest areas of opportunity? And then I write down mine, they write down what they think mine are, and then we compare. And that provides me the ability to identify my blind spots. And I will tell you, the ability for someone to share that with me, where I don't see something but they see it in me, and also when it's consistent across all of my direct reports, has had a huge impact in my ability to lead effectively. So I highly recommend doing this with your team. And by the way, you can be the subject of conversation, but so can your team. One of my favorite self-assessments is the grit score. We're not talking about yummy food from the South where you put a little butter on it and scoop it up. You guys like grits? Yes? Delicious. Love me some grits. What we're really talking about is the scientific definition of grit, which is the intersection of passion and perseverance. And what we know from the science, Angela Duckworth, a researcher at University of Pennsylvania, what we know from the science is that grit is the top predictor of success, however it was defined for that subject. And so, your first exercise today. Who here in the room with a show of hands, actually forget hands, you're gonna clap. Who here, if you're gonna clap, wants to know what your grit score is right now today? Clap. All right. However, I'm gonna do this with you guys, but you gotta pinky swear. Can you pinky swear? Pinky swear, cool. So you're pinky swearing about being honest with yourself. We just said self-awareness is critically important to effective leadership. So when you answer these questions, you gotta give it the honest answer. Remember, we measure to improve, not to impress. Whatever your grit score is today, cool, it's your benchmark. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you just work towards driving additional growth and grittiness, and we're gonna talk about how to do that. So here we go. QR code, pull out your phones. I think that's big enough for you guys to be able to do it. Hopefully it is. If you need to run up to the stage, feel free. Take a picture of that. The link should pop up. You should get a browser, and it should take you to the grit score. Can you guys do that? So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. I'm going to drink a little bit of water, and then I'll let you guys do this. Now, by the way, if it's not happening, and for those of you who are at home who can't see this, you can actually go to grit-scale.com. That should bring it up. If it doesn't, you can just Google it. If you just Google grit scale, you'll see Angela Duckworth's website. Okay? So I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds. Rapid fire, guys. First answer is the correct answer. Okay? Don't think about it. Just give it your first honest answer. 30 seconds. Crew is hard at work here. Okay, when you're done, put down your phone, please. No, it's just a place where you started, brother. Just a place where you started. No, I know. All right. You getting close, guys? I got to move. All right, you guys keep going. I'm gonna continue. So what are the factors? What are the X factors, the variables, the inputs that drive grittiness? Number one, you have something that you find enduringly fascinating. I find chiropractic enduringly fascinating. When I see Heidi Havik doing work that is bridging 100-year-old philosophy with science today, I find that incredibly fascinating, and we are just getting started understanding what chiropractic is doing to the nervous system. You view frustrations as a necessary part of the process. Everybody gets frustrated. Everybody has bad days. Everybody has obstacles. But the question is, do you get emotional? Or do you look at it as a learning opportunity? And you look for more ways to find your work more meaningful. Now for me, I saw patients for a long time. Then I stepped out of the patient care component of my practice. I ran the businesses, and we just started a technology company because I really felt like I needed to build technology to scale positive impact, to put the power back in the hands of the patient, because there's so much guideline discordant care out there that's delivered by the healthcare system. We need to fix that. Chiropractic needs to be a part of that solution, and I'm committed to doing that. And that's what fascinates me. Thanks, buddy. And lastly, you believe you can change and grow. Now sit with that for a second. You truly believe you can change and grow. So what does it mean to actually have a growth mindset? Well, a growth mindset says failure is an opportunity to grow. Fixed mindset says failure is the limit of my abilities. Growth mindset says I can learn to do anything I want. Fixed mindset says I'm either good at it or I'm not. Growth mindset says feedback is constructive. Fixed mindset says feedback and criticism are personal. You guys see the difference? Yes? Yes? Now we all kind of translate across this given a given day or a given time, a given experience, but the goal for us is to live over here the vast majority of our time, and we can. So now let's dig deeper. Root cause, I love the gardening analogy, Corey, that was great. Getting down to the roots, got to get to the roots. So what are the X factors for building a growth mindset? Well, first and foremost, doing exactly what you're doing today, exactly what you're doing this weekend. You're investing in learning. And whether it's getting together at amazing conferences, and by the way, can we give it up for Corey and Melissa and this entire team? God, what an event! What an event! I mean, they've done such a phenomenal job, and you guys are investing. You're taking your time and your money and investing. It's funny, when Corey went through his value stack yesterday, and he's showing all the value that he was delivering, and I was like, holy crap, what's the return on investment in that? Like a couple of new patients? Like, for us, it's like a no-brainer. We invest in order to help us grow. Step two, again, I know that you guys know this, but hard work is the key. I love this quote from Vince Lombardi, the Hall of Fame Green Bay Packer coach. The only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. Love that. And lastly, got some Packer fans back there. They had a good draft. Lastly, you have to be able to face setbacks and challenges head on. So I'm going to share a little story with you. So I was presenting research at an international conference in Copenhagen several years ago. My girlfriend and I were like, all right, well, we're over there. Where do we want to go? Let's go somewhere else. So we decided that we were going to go to France. We're going to do a little road trip. Couple nights in Paris, couple nights in Normandy, couple nights in Bordeaux, couple nights in Loire, and then back to Paris and then back home. So we're on the airplane, and we're having some champagne. We're living it up. We're having a great time, getting ready to take off. And the captain gets on the plane, and he's like, excusez-moi. I think you can tell I don't speak French. Excusez-moi, monsieur, madame. We will not be taking off. We've got some mechanical problems with the plane. So there's going to be a delay. So my girlfriend freaks out. She's not a great flyer, so she's freaking out. I'm like, give her another glass of champagne, please. And we wait there for a half an hour. Guy gets on, the captain gets on the loudspeaker again. Pardon, we are not taking off. We will need to reschedule you. I can be a little bit impatient. I'm like dropping F-bombs to myself. I'm like so frustrated. I'm like, all right, whatever. We're just going to make the best of it. We get in there. We rebook our flights for 6 p.m. This was like 11 o'clock in the morning. 6 p.m., 7 hours later. So what do you do when your flight gets delayed or canceled? What do you do? Where do you go? You go to the bar, right? So we went to the bar, hanging out. I pull out my laptop. We're chilling, having some drinks, making the best of a not-so-great situation. First world problems, though, right? Really? So making the best of a not so great situation, finally get on our plane, get to Paris. Guess what doesn't get there? Luggage. Damn luggage. Like 7 hours. Like you can't get our bags from like one plane to the next plane in 7 hours. So anyway, we go get our little amenities kit, and they give us these little tickets, to track our stuff. And we go to our flat in Paris. And by the way, that picture of the Eiffel Tower was from our flat. It was beautiful. And, we were sitting there waiting for our bags that first day. They didn't come. So then the second day arrives, and, we're calling customer service. Every time we call customer service, we hear this damn song. It wasn't that loud, but we don't even have the benefit of this video. We're just hearing it. This is the wait music, right? I love you. Love me. Give me my bag. That's what I'm saying. I'm screaming the phone. Give me my bag. Oh, I'm shouting. Trust me, I'm shouting. I was like, I just lost it. I literally lost it. I mean, you have to understand, we were calling Delta because Delta managed the U.S. version of Air France, trying to get people who could speak English and translate. Every time we called, they didn't have a recording of the previous call. It was a train wreck. So I'm sitting at the kitchen table at the flat. It's 11 o'clock. We have to leave at 11 o'clock. The housekeeper comes knocking on the door, and I'm on my laptop. And my girl's like, baby, what the F are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to think differently about the situation, and I'm going to Twitter. So I basically attacked Air France on Twitter because the phone calls weren't working. We were calling everybody and anybody. And so I shouted out to Twitter. My girlfriend's like, we're never getting our bags. I'm like, no, just trust me on this one. Let's just try it, right? So again, I gave them a tweet, right? Said, won't call delivery service to locate our bags, leaving Paris today without luggage. About a half an hour later, we're in the car driving to Normandy, and guess what? We get a tweet back. We get a response that says, please DM us with the reference number, and we'll look into it. All right, cool. Get to Normandy. They tell us that we're going to get our bags in Normandy. Did we get our bags? No, we did not get our bags. So now we're off to Bordeaux. And we're like, okay, so and I'm still tweeting, right? And my girlfriend, who's not on any social media, she was starting to get into it. She was looking at trending hashtags, and she's like, if Disney made a movie of me. And I wrote, okay, write this. If Disney made a movie of me, I'd be wandering around hashtag naked because Air France never delivered our luggage, hashtag no fairy tale ending. And then what I hate in 5 words, huh? That's right, what I hate in 5 words, and I blasted them. And then, and by the way, later in the day, anyone else having a horrible experience, and then I'm tagging Air France, but I also wrote hashtag boycott. That's a strong word. That's a really strong word. I was not messing around. Then, even though she's not on social, she wanted to get into it, and she's like, okay, write this. What do you get when Air France lies to you about your luggage delivery? Hashtag amenities kit, hashtag prison shirt. And she was so cool. My girlfriend's solo maintenance. She had a little bit of clothes, not a lot. I had more clothes than she did, but she was pretty cool about it. And then ultimately we wanted to keep trying new things, so we tagged TripAdvisor. It just didn't stop. I was relentless. I was going to get our bags. So again, after a series of tweets, finally we got some stupid communication, a DM from them, and they said, it's expected to be on the flight. I'm like, what? WTF is expected? It's either on the flight or not. Got this. It was well loaded on the flight. I'm so glad it was well loaded, not poorly loaded on the plane. It was well loaded. You should be contacted soon. 30 minutes later, we get our bags. So what's the point, right? Was I passionate about getting luggage? Yes or no? Did I persevere no matter what? Yes or no? Did I learn and grow as I went along? Yes. And the fact of the matter is, if I can do it, so can you. So can you. So let's take a step back and just review what I've talked about, because we've drilled down, and I want to make sure it's really clear. Why is the outcome? We're looking for effective leadership mindset. What's the key variable? Self-awareness. How do you drive self-awareness? You assess yourself, and you have others assess you as well, and be open to the feedback. Do not get defensive, as hard as it may be. Once you understand where you are, especially as it relates to grittiness, the key variable is building a growth mindset. Building, right? Again, it's a transition. And then how do you build a growth mindset? What we just talked about. You invest in learning, you work your ass off, you work smart, but you work your ass off, and ultimately you develop this skill set of perseverance that is bar none. Thomas Edison said, our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is to always, always, always try just one more time. I literally have this quote in my wallet. I carry this around with me. So, mindset X factor number 1, use validated tools and peer feedback to develop greater self-awareness. Number 2, increase your grittiness by building a growth mindset. And number 3, own your journey. The obstacle is the way. I'm going to say that one more time. Own your journey, because the obstacle is the way. Every failure, every setback is teaching you something. Don't get upset. I mean, it's normal to get emotional, but process it in ways that actually serve you well, and they will serve you well. So, mindset exercise number 2, what is your biggest fixed mindset, your biggest limiting belief that's holding you back right now? I want you to take 10 seconds and just write it down. Don't think too hard about it. We all have limiting beliefs. What's the biggest one that's holding you back right now? I want you to write it down, 10 seconds. Number 1, limiting belief. Don't think too hard. You know what it is. All right. Mission, people, process. Let's get to people. A sign of a good leader is not how many followers you have, but how many leaders you create. Mahatma Gandhi. Jim Collins, in his book, Good to Great, 2nd chapter, first who, then what? First who, then what? And this is all about the right people in the right seats. And Corey and the team have done an amazing job of teaching this content to you this weekend. And I'll just maybe add a little bit of spice here and there. By the way, let me ask you a question. How many people in this room have actually read the book Good to Great? Raise your hand. Okay, good. If you've not read this book, it is a CEO Bible. I highly encourage that you read it. And by the way, just because it's a CEO Bible doesn't mean that it's not awesome for production managers and office managers. It is, because you have to have that mindset as well. So, what are the X factors to hire and retain the right people? You've been talking so much about it this weekend. I'm just going to give you my little take on it. So for us, we're really passionate about being clear about who we are, what we believe, and how we behave. This is my team. And our tagline is rethink, rebuild, restart. I am passionate about people rethinking healthcare. Our healthcare system, especially in the US, is a freaking train wreck, especially as it relates to musculoskeletal care. It's a disgrace. And we, as a profession, are actually perfectly positioned to fix this problem. Rebuild, that's what happens when patients come into our practices. We're literally rebuilding their bodies. We are improving their function. And that allows them to restart their lives. That is our DNA. That is actually who we are. I created something called the Kaizo Commitments. And this was something to be very clear with my team about who we are, what we believe, and how we behave. So the Kaizo Commitments, as a brilliant, human-centered, tenacious, passionate, and synergistic teammate at Kaizo, I commit to building the culture by showing up with positivity, gratitude, a will-do mindset, and having fun. #brilliance, one of our values. 2, placing the needs of the team and the patients at the forefront of my actions. #human-centered. 3, accepting every new task and challenge as an opportunity to learn, grow, improve, and help Kaizo achieve its mission. #tenacity. Number 4, growing Kaizo's impact by proactively focusing on all Kaizo brand building initiatives. #passion. 5, strengthen trust and relationships by communicating transparently and accurately. #synergy. Rethink, rebuild, restart. Our mission, inspiring and empowering a healthier, happier world. This is who we are. And when we make hiring decisions, those folks need to align with that. I reinforce values regularly. I send out a Monday Morning Mojo email every Monday, focusing everybody on the week, and there's always going to be a hashtag around either our mission, our values, or both. This is an example of an email that I sent out to the entire team. This goes on a regular basis. Just wanted to share this text I received from a good friend, patient Patty, who received a text from a friend. She referred to us, Down Dog Yoga Girl. Every day, every minute, every patient matters. Every patient matters. We change lives. We truly inspire and empower a healthier, happier world. Building the best brand does really take brilliance, tenacity, synergy, passion, and human-centered care. We are the best, and our destiny is to be even better and better and better. Better and better and better. And my people know, my team knows, we are never, ever, ever going to be stagnant. Not who we are. So when we hire and when we retain, it's because people understand this is the culture I'm buying into as well. So for me, a really important component that's been talked about a lot, thank goodness. I thought Corey's last session was great. I mean, all those interview questions were phenomenal. For me, it's about really being clear around hiring for values and identifying exactly what those core values are. And those questions were so strong. Again, you want good skill sets, but it can't be the first deliverable, in my opinion, because a lot of things can be taught. Can't hire a chiropractor. They didn't graduate chiropractic school. They don't have a degree. I can't hire them. I need that skill set if that's my role I'm hiring for. But I also have to make sure they truly align with our core values. I love the questions. It's so funny because Corey and I, we've had a lot of conversations, but there's been so much synergy in the things that he's talking about and the things that we do in our own companies. One of my favorite questions is to ask someone, have you ever played an instrument or played a sport when you were younger? And the answer usually is yes, right? And so my next question is, who was your favorite coach and why? Who was your favorite coach and why? And I get so much information. The one who says, oh, Coach Jones, he was so cool. He let us do whatever we want. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Or, hey, it was Coach Smith. He busted my ass. He pushed me to the limits of my potential. He made us work really hard, but he built a team. He built a culture of winning, and that's what I love about Coach Smith. That is a person I want to continue the conversation with. I asked the opposite question, who was your least favorite coach and why? Right? You guys get the point. So I love that question. It gives me so much insight as to what's going on in these people's minds and really who they are and what their character is. You were awesome on stage, my friend. Blaze did a great job. Can we give it up for Blaze again? He did a great job. And as Corey answered that question so eloquently and so calmly as he did around how he was so productive and how he was an A player, the initial thing that went to my mind was back to X factors. I was like, my next question would have been, so what were the factors that drove those results? Because now he's got to really think, right? What was it? What did I do? Who did I interact with? How do I assemble my team? Like, there's so many variables that drive that result. And so again, I'm a Six Sigma trained guy. So I'm going into inputs, variables, root causes. So just some insight there from my perspective. So what are the X factors to make sure they're in the right seat? I mean, again, there's been tons of conversation around this today. Be crystal clear about the roles. We've kind of talked about that and performance expectations. We talked about the org chart. I did this just for you, Corey, right? The 5 deliverables, what the result looks like when what great looks like, the great result looks like. That's really important to be clear about. But what we do also is we've got core competencies listed out for every single role in great detail. So for instance, our associate doctors or our clinic directors, they have clinical responsibilities, admin, sales, and marketing. We break it down categorically so it makes sense. Then we've got a detailed description of what great looks like, not good, what great looks like. And then we've got a quantitative assessment of what great looks like. And then we've got deadlines, and then we've got priorities, and then we've got, is it delegatable? And I do this during the interview process, not on that first 15-minute phone call, right? But when they're in front of me and they've gone through 3 steps of the interview process, now I'm sitting down with them. I'm going to spend my time with them now, and I'm going to go through this core competency list, and we're going to have a conversation about expectation. And if this is not what they want, if they don't think they can do this, that's cool. They can go somewhere else. But this is what we need. This is what we expect. For them, it's ultimately a matter of, do they get it? Do they want it and have the capacity to do it? I mean, I know Corey knows this. Anybody who's read the book Traction knows this, but it's all about GWC. If any one of these isn't there, the likelihood of them being a good fit for that seat is probably not too great. So how do you know that they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it? Ultimately, it comes down to their unique abilities. I always want to put the people in the seat that matches their unique abilities. And actually, that can be tested to a degree, both through the interview process, but also through a really cool test called Strength Finders. And so again, another way to assess yourself, but also to have people who are candidates or even people that are currently working in your practice, a way to assess their unique abilities and also their desire to do certain things. I think somebody asked a question about, I got a front desk person and we have this other role, and where should I fit this person? I thought the answers were great. The only other answer that I would add to that is I would ask them, here's the role, here are the responsibilities, this is what you're doing right now. Which one do you see leveraging your unique abilities? Because let's face it, we're learning from Corey this weekend, we're only going to hire A players. So let's put that person in a role that they actually want to be in. Let's show them upward mobility if we can. Let's not be afraid. Let's not have a limited mindset that we can't fill that front desk role because she's so good. Because, Corey, what kind of players do we hire? A players, baby. So let's not have a limited mindset around that. So, People X Factor number 5, promote adoption, follow-up, and follow-through as it relates to KPIs. I say adoption here because I'm a big believer in getting team feedback. I'm a collaborative leader. That's how I'd be described. And I want to hear input from my team, the people that are doing it on the front lines. And if we've got KPIs that we need to achieve, I want to know from them how they think the best way is to achieve those goals. This is our scorecard. This is what we do every single Monday. We call them level 10s. Again, this comes from Traction. We go through good news. We have a scorecard. We review our quarterly rocks. We have people headlines. We have a to-do list. To-dos are weekly to-dos that need to get accomplished. That comes from the issues list where we identify issues, discuss them, discuss root causes, and solve them. But at the beginning of the meeting, again, we have scorecard, and we've got leading and lagging metrics. And I could talk forever about that, but again, the inputs to a lagging metric like profit, there are many of them, and we need to be able to drill down all the way to the key drivers. Future kept visits, kept visits are driven by the number of no futures that we currently have on the schedule, plus the number of current future visits. Every day, we're looking at this data. Now, just so you guys know, we just became a BlueIQ client, so I'm super excited about that. So next time I'm on stage, you won't see this, you'll see our dashboard. But at the end of the day, we understand the key drivers that drive results, and we have our team adopt ways that they can actually drive the results that we're looking for because it's coming from them. So why do you think that goal setting is so important to individuals on your team? I want to hear some answers here. Why are goals and goal setting so important to individual team members? Buy-in? Sure. That's important for the business, for sure. Why else?
Keeps forward movement.
Keeps the traction, right? Keeps you moving forward. Why else? Gamification, sure. You can have gamification that engages them in ways that actually engage them. I love that. What else?
Have a purpose.
To have a purpose. That's awesome. That's a great answer, Blaze. So this is what I say to my team all the time, because learning to achieve a goal is actually a life skill. It's not just about the business. Joe, the reason why this is so important, why you need to stick to your tactics and learn how to overcome obstacles in your way to achieve this quarterly goal is because you're learning a life skill. It's not just about the KPI. It's not just about the qualitative goal. You are learning how to do something that you will take with you for the rest of your life. Is that important to you, Joe? We have A players who are like, oh yeah, I freaking get that. So it's about them. It's about them, not just about us. Okay, people exercise. We're going to do this real quick because I don't want to run over. I do what's called a 9-box. So I chart my team on values versus performance. And so whether you do this now or whether you do this at home, there's probably an employee or two, someone on your team, maybe a couple, that you're not quite sure about. And so you can actually 9-box them. If they're high on values and if they're high on performance, they're in this box. What does this box mean for me? Opportunity, promotion, growth. If they're down here, they're a C on values and a C on performance. What does that mean? Bad. It means like we're probably going to, move them off the bus. And so you stack rank the result with your entire team. And then you make a decision. Do we coach them up or do we coach them out? Do we coach them up or do we coach them out? So that could be a very, very effective tool for evaluating your team on an ongoing basis. All right, part 3, process. If you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. W. Edwards Deming. So remember, I told you that this was me, right? I had lots of patients we were seeing, and no money was coming in the door. So I went to Wharton, and as I was driving back and forth to Philly from DC, I was listening to books on tape, right? I needed to get smarter. I knew that. I was a dum-dum. I was Elmo the idiot, right? So I'm trying to get smarter. I'm listening to this book on tape, and the first book on tape I listened to was Jack, Straight from the Gut. Who here knows who Jack Welch is? Raise your hand. Okay, so more of us old-timers. He was the CEO of General Electric. He built them into the largest company on the planet. And as I was listening to this book on tape, I heard about this thing called Six Sigma. And I was like, man, this sounds like Mandarin to me. I mean, literally, like, I was so confused. I had no idea what he was talking about, but I did more research and more research. I literally had to learn how to learn this. And ultimately, I learned about the history of Six Sigma, and here's how it started. Do you guys remember pagers? Okay, so back in the day, Motorola was like the leading manufacturer of pagers. And they were manufacturing pagers, and they were coming off the assembly line defective. So when the quality assurance person was pulling them off and looking at it, they're like, okay, this thing's not working correctly, send it back. Did that cost Motorola money? Yes or no? Okay, so, and also if that defective pager ended up getting into the customer's hand, does that cost Motorola money? Of course, we just talked about stakes and defects. So we know that that's a problem. It's a huge business issue. And so what engineers did, actually the guy's name is Bill Smith. He and his team of engineers decided, you know what? What we're going to do is we're not going to wait until the pager gets off the assembly line. We're actually going to control the 3 to 5 steps that are critical during the manufacturing process. We're going to check it then. We're going to control for it then, so that when they come off the assembly line, they're essentially perfect. Does that make sense? Good. So again, we want to get our desired result. We want to have basically a defect-free process. Variation in processes cause defects. Different cooking temperature, different cooking time, different thickness of the steaks. All of those variations in process cause defects. In our company, we say variation is evil. So when you're thinking about, again, your administrative, sales and marketing, clinical, financial processes, if there's variation because the process isn't clear or the people aren't carrying out correctly, you will have defects. The goal of Six Sigma is to eliminate defects and improve customer loyalty. If we improve customer loyalty, are we making more money? Are we seeing more people? Are we helping more people? Absolutely. Okay, bear with me. So Six Sigma is all about process capability, okay? So when we look at a bell curve around Six Sigma, process variation is the area under the curve. So at 1 standard deviation, 1 sigma, there's a lot of area under the curve, yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. So there's lots of variation, therefore there's going to be lots of defects. Is there less variation at 2 sigma? Yes. Less area of the curve. Less at 3? Yes. All the way over to 6 sigma, can you even see any area under the curve? It's unrecognizable because when processes run at 6 sigma, when companies run at 6 sigma, there are only 3.4 defects per million opportunities. It's almost perfect. In fact, it's 99.99966% perfect. And when Jack Welch was talking about GE, they had to build aircraft engines. They had to be better than 6 sigma. They had to be 12 sigma because people would die if there were defects in manufacturing. Make sense? So practically speaking, 95% good, guys, it sucks, okay? It sucks because that's 5,000 incorrect surgical operations per week compared to 6 sigma, which is only 1.7. 2 sigma, 95% good, is 200,000 wrong drug prescriptions per year versus 68. So the goal for us is to improve our process capability, reduce defects, improve customer loyalty, and profits. So again, seeing lots of people, not getting paid. We ran a Six Sigma project in our company where we defined the problem, poor cash flow. How bad was it? Down 70%. How do we analyze it? We analyze all the root causes. What were all the factors, the X factors going in to reduce cash flow? How do we improve it? And how do we evaluate process steps quantitatively. Some process steps are more important than others, guys. So you can actually assign a quantitative value. And when you go through the process, you know the 3 to 5 key steps that are critical to get the desired result. Once you get it, you build out a control plan. Not that difficult. At the end of the day, this is going to seem so obvious. Again, I told you I was an idiot. Maybe I'm still an idiot. But at the end of the day, the number one thing that we had to control for was demographic data entry. Because we had people not entering data correctly. And what do the insurance companies do when that information is not correct? Denied. So now, every single day, for the last almost 20 years, you guys, one person on my team checks all the demographic data entry every day. And our claims processing is like the speed of lightning. Almost perfect. So, question for you all. Is healthcare a service or a manufacturing industry? So with a show of hands, how many people think in this room and at home, healthcare is a service industry? Raise your hand. All right. How many people think it's manufacturing? Raise your hand. All right. So for those of you that said manufacturing, tell me why you said that. What's the product? My man. Give these guys a round of applause. That's exactly right. So again, I encourage people to think again when they think it's just service, right? By the way, this is a phenomenal book. If you've not read this book, read this book. Good or great, definitely. Think again, Adam Grant, read it. Because we do manufacture clinical outcomes. We do manufacture financial results. We do manufacture service experience. How much intent we actually put forth is really designed around our processes. So if we don't have these processes documented correctly, then how can we measure process capability? So here's your X factor. Document the 20% of the processes that drive 80% of the results. Make sure that's really, really clear and followed by all. And understand what 3 to 5 key steps in any given process is going to guarantee the result that you're looking for. Okay, time to review. Mindset factors. Use validated tools and peer feedback to develop greater self-awareness. Increase your grittiness by building a growth mindset. Own your journey. The obstacles are the way. All right, people factors, X factors. Be clear about who you are, what you believe, and how you behave, and reinforce that on a regular basis. Hire for values. Be crystal clear about roles and expectations, what great looks like. Promote adoption, follow up, and follow through with all of your KPIs. Process X factors, we just discussed them. Document the 20% of the processes that drive 80% of the results. And lastly, make sure that you identify and control those key variables in these process steps in order to guarantee the result that you're looking for. Okay, some final leadership thoughts. Know thyself. Convey strength and warmth. Manifest confident humility. Know the power of feelings, but be tough in a crisis. Cultivate your people's superpowers. And build your culture with action, because it can't be built with words alone. Lead with a focus on your people and let your team refine process. For God's sake, take a risk worth taking. And serve the greater good, and you'll be inscribed in the book of life with love. Do or do not, there is no try. Yoda! All right, guys. So I've got one final slide for you. And what I did is I actually created a rap. You guys ready for that? Yeah. That's why I got my sunglasses. But actually, I really need your help, because I got to have some backbeat, right? So I'm going to put on my sunglasses. All right? What I need you to do is stand up, please. And I need a beat. Right? So it's, hold on, white people in the front, don't do that. So it's, keep it up. The soul of a leader is one who serves. A vision so massive, a world to preserve. Challenges surround. We keep fighting through. The goal so critical. It's meant just for you. Thank you all.
Dr. Greenstein! The one, the only.
Well done.